Hey guys, welcome to the Pistons Talk Podcast. You already know me, Anthony, my co-host, Lance Caprosi. We have a very special guest. You guys probably know who this is, but if you don't, I'm assuming one or two things. You live under a rock or you support Corey Joseph. Those are just the two things. That's the inside joke with me and King, but thank God. I heard a rumor that Casey was in the stands and he was saying, put Kojo in last night, but hey.
Don't do this. Don't do this to me, please. We're on a good note.
King, I'm so happy that you're on. I've been trying to get you on it seems like for like a year. We've done shows together before, but it always feels like there's like 15 people on a live stream for like whatever reason. But really happy you're on. But how you doing, man? How's things?
Great, man. Like I said, I'm rejuvenated. Thank you, Monty Williams. I am rejuvenated, man. I'm loving this team, loving this roster so far. Man, I'm excited.
It's a good team. It's fun to follow. So let's get into this, though. The NBA season just started, and the Detroit Pistons are 2-1 with wins over the Bulls, thank God, and the Hornets. That was awesome. Even though I did miss it, let me just make that clear. The one loss came to the Miami Heat, who won 103-102. Last second shot by K did not fall into the basket. But before the season started, we all had our opinions, how we thought the season would go. So let me ask you guys, have your thoughts changed based on the first 3 games of the season? And you can go.
You can go, King. You're the guest.
Yeah, I listen, man. Absolutely not. I knew once K came back, things would be a lot different. We suffered through so many different lineups last season. Terrible defensively. Dwayne Casey just could not get these guys to get it right. So, like I said, once I seen, what we did as far as trying to upgrade the roster and bringing in a guy like Monty Williams, I knew what he was bringing defensively. That's why I was so excited about it. Man, like I said, over the summer, once I seen Cade, out there, USA, Rico Hines, it just confirmed everything for me.
What was your record before the season started? What were you predicting?
I was predicting somewhere in the low 30s. I actually was. Because I knew we weren't no 17-win team. It's not what we were, man. We knew what it was. It was tank for Wemby season. So yeah, that's where I was.
What about you, Anthony? Anything's changed? I mean, I've heard your thoughts on the Pistons the entire time we've done this podcast, obviously, because it is a Pistons podcast. But what are your thoughts?
So I think I fell victim to the preseason woes like everyone else. Once I saw the preseason, I was like, man, we'd be lucky to win like 25 games. And then before the season, I said 35. And then I'm back on the 35 wagon again. I am never overreacting to another preseason again because these guys just weren't trying. And it's evident just watching the Heat game. I was like, man, the Heat are going to blow us out. It was a 1-point game. Kyle Lowry didn't score a single point. He was on his Tony Snell. It was just absolutely insane. I'm back to 35 wins. I haven't seen a defense like this, dare I say, since the Going to Work Pistons. Just gritty. It's not pretty. It's ugly, but I love it. I love videos of Isaiah Stewart with Terry Rozier say, hey, man, want to fight? After the game, I got you. Dude, I love it. I'm so here for it.
Yeah, I said 28 to 32 wins. I lean towards 32 because that's a 15-game improvement. I'm sticking with 32 because I do feel like at some point during the season, the Pistons will struggle. And we'll get into that a little bit later on the podcast if we would make any changes or not. But, I mean, that's a game of basketball. You can start out hot and then have a month or two where things just don't go your way. We saw with Paolo Banchero last year shooting 2% from the three-point line for an entire month. Cold streaks happen. But, yeah, I am – man, I've never been more excited after the first 3 games. I was on the edge of my couch during the Miami Heat game, and I didn't care how the game ended as long as Cade took the final shot. Not really the shot I would have drawn up, but still he looked good in that game. 30 points, obviously. But, yeah, my thoughts, 32 wins. It's confirmed. If we're a 20-something win team, that's a bad season in my opinion. Even if they get 25 or 27, it's still an improvement from last year. But after seeing these guys play for the first 3 games, it has to be 32 or more, in my opinion, for it to be like considered a good season. Are any of you guys thinking play-in though, or playoffs?
I'm going play-in. I am.
Same.
And simply because of defense can take you a long way in this league. Especially with us, we have to play our style. You seen what the refs was doing to us last game. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, man, if these guys keep buying in, playing defense, tough, hard-nosed basketball, I think Cade is going to continue to blossom throughout the season and become the star that we all know he is. So, like I said, guys like Ivy, we're talking about it early right now. Guys like Ivy, you'll see guys start to get better throughout the season. So I can definitely see that. I'll even double down and say, hey, 35 plus wins.
Okay.
If we stay fairly healthy, we have to stay fairly healthy. That's the key. So also we have a trade deadline mid-season. We all know what's going to happen around that time, right? So anything.
Something happens.
Yeah.
What about you, Anthony? You think we're a play-in team or a playoff team?
I think what King said is you have to stay healthy. And if you stay healthy, this is a play-in team. I think that should be the goal for the season, is try to get into that play-in spot. I don't think a 10 seed is unreasonable for this team, especially the way they move the ball. They're playing defense. Even against the refs with some of the bullshit calls. It's funny. Like, I was watching the game and I could hear it. And King, you were there live last night when the crowd chanted, "Ref, you suck." I swear there were 20 fouls in 20 seconds.
It was, oh my God, that atmosphere in that crowd. We were screaming at the refs. Like I said, I don't want to make it a sexist thing, but the female refs, you heard a lot of screaming at them. Oh, these female refs, they keep calling foul. It was amazing last night in that arena, man.
Yeah, I think I heard something on TV like, man, why do you have a female ref? They can't let anything go. It's just crazy. But you've been to plenty of LCA. You've been to, not LCA. You've been to plenty of Pistons games, King. What was you just said the atmosphere was great. Like, how would you compare that atmosphere to other Pistons home openers in the past?
First, let's just rewind a little bit. A couple weeks ago, practice, right?
Yeah.
So I get to practice, not thinking nothing. Hey, I'm going here. The lines were down the street to get into the arena. So I already knew it was coming at that point. Yesterday, from top to bottom, that place was packed. It was electric. It wasn't Bulls fans everywhere. These were Pistons fans. And just loud, man. So supporting every player on the team. Man, like I said, it's an electric crowd. This season is going to be very special for the Detroit Pistons if they can continue to win. This city is ready to get behind this team, man. Like I said, it's all in Cade and the rest of those guys' hands, to take us to where we want to be.
For sure. November 19th, they play the Toronto Raptors. We need to fill LCA. There can be no Canadians at LCA. It has to be just all Pistons.
There's going to be fights. Like, those Raptors fans, man, they're so obnoxious coming down from, like, Toronto on the bus or coming, across the lake from Ontario, man. Like, I already know there's going to be a fight because you're probably going to see it on social media. Some Piston fans just going to sucker punch them.
It'll be the most polite fight there can be in an NBA game with the Canadians. Let's talk about the news, though, real quick. We have a news update for all of you guys. Bojan, right calf strain, he'll be reevaluated in, I think, 3 weeks now, but it says 4 weeks. Monte Morris in 3 weeks. Isaiah Livers will be reevaluated in 4 weeks. How do you think these three change the Pistons when they come back from their injuries? King, I'll turn it over to you first.
Obviously with Bojan, consistency shooting the basketball. Me personally, my only thing with Bojan is obviously defense. And if we're a defense first team, I don't want him to mess up the rhythm that we have defensively. So that's going to be interesting to watch. Monty plays defense. Livers plays defense. But Bojan's the biggest question out of all three of them. And how long is he going to stick around? Because we all know it's inevitable that he's going to be moved. So, yeah.
Okay. I agree with you. I mean, I was, again, at the beginning of the season, I thought Bojan for sure should be in the starting lineup. But after seeing the starting five and the rotations, more importantly, for Amani, that has been way better than it was last year under Casey. Again, no offense to Casey. It's just, like you had said earlier, King, it was a Wemby take season. We had to lose to try to get him. I just think Bojan, I think his new role is probably going to be off the bench, just as that bench unit is going to be like crazy offensively with him coming back. Monte Morris, I think he's going to play probably the biggest role outside of him because he's going to be a guy that you can team up with Jaden Ivy, and he's going to be able to control the pace a little bit more. And I think he'll be able to set Ivy up a little bit and maybe have him play a little bit more controlled. And then Isaiah Livers, this is my guy. We're from the same place in Kalamazoo. I absolutely love Isaiah Livers, but I don't really know what to say about him. I mean, I had high hopes before the season started, but because of the injury, I don't know where he fits in. Even though he has a great, like a Swiss Army skill set, I just don't know where he fits in with the way the team is playing right now. Now, in a few weeks, that might change, but Bojan and Monte, they definitely have a spot when they come back. Isaiah Livers still a question mark. I'm going to turn it over to you, Anthony. What do you think happens to this Pistons team when these guys come back?
Before I get into that, I think our medical staff, or like just maybe the team as a whole, should be more honest, because we were told with Bojan's injury, relax, you guys, he'll be good to go for the regular season. Then he's out 4 weeks. Like, our medical team's just like, he may be hurt, he may not, who knows? We'll find out. It's just like, you got to be more transparent with us. But Isaiah Livers has a shot to come back before Bojan does. A couple of days before, I was reading a CBS injury report. They think he could be back like late November, Bojan with that, and Monte Morris like 2 weeks. I think where this team is going to get a lot better is having a veteran in Monte Morris backing them up. In my opinion, and I might sound like a homer, I think he's one of the best backup point guards in the league. His assist to turnover ratio is incredibly low for a position that, you can turn the ball over a lot because you are running the offense. I think Monty's going to lean on him very heavily. He could be your backup. He's going to be your backup point guard, and you're going to have Ivy on the bench, possibly Bojan and Alec Burks with an Isaiah Livers. Like, the bench might outscore the starters. If you think about it, that's absolutely crazy. Like, you have firepower, 10, 11 deep. And I don't even think Monty Williams has had a bench this deep throughout his career. He didn't have a bench in Phoenix. He kind of had an okay bench in New Orleans, but like, I think once we get fully healthy, this team's just going to be firing on all cylinders.
Oh, for sure. Do you think, I'll turn it over to you, King, here after I ask this question, but do you think that these guys can come back a little bit slower based on how the Pistons play? Like, let's just say they keep playing the way they have for the next 2 weeks and they win a couple more games. Could you see the Pistons just being like, yeah, you know what, we might actually hold off to make sure these guys are 100% healthy before they come back? What do you think about that?
Absolutely. And that's pretty much what I was alluding to, because like I said, it's very important to keep the chemistry going. When things are going right, you want to keep that chemistry going. And, like I said, just force feeding one of these guys in can really mess up some things. So, but we're paying Bojan some money.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So it'll be interesting to see what they do in that situation. But yeah, I think we definitely can prolong these injuries a little bit, man. If we win it, like I said, just looking at the next 3 games on the schedule, man, the Pistons got a chance to really get some wins in this little stretch. So, we'll see. Something for us to monitor, right?
Sure.
But it's very important to keep that chemistry and keep the flow of the offense and defense that you have when you win it.
What about you, Anthony? You think that these guys, their timelines could be pushed back a little bit depending on how the Pistons are playing?
I think it could if, let's say, they go into OKC and they win. I think that the Suns in Milwaukee, like if they're still winning games with their defense and just playing the team basketball that they have in the first 3 games, and, maybe Monte Morris is really close. Maybe they lean him in a little bit. Maybe they still think Assar and Ivy are doing a better job. Because the Kings' point, if the chemistry is there and they're flowing offensively, why ruin it? You have something that's working. Like, if it's not broke, don't fit. You know what I mean? Like, you just want to keep it going and just ride that wave until something changes.
For sure. All right, the Detroit Pistons, they are 2-1, like I said at the top of the podcast. There have been a lot of things that we can be impressed about. The defense, the offense, the rotations by Monty Williams. My personal opinion, my favorite thing, the thing that I've been most impressed about is the ball movement. I mean, everybody has been buying in and not taking anything away from anybody's game. That's probably been the most impressive part. I mean, some guys have been forced to change their games to fit into the 0.5 offense, but it has been worth it. As I said, 2 wins to start the season and a close loss to the Miami Heat. The 0.5 offense is what I've been most impressed with. But King, what have you been most impressed with the Pistons so far this season?
I mean, that's just it, man. It's the offense, the moving of the basketball, the way they run this offense. It was just times where I would just question the TV and say, "What is Dwayne Casey doing?" Even though I knew in the back of my mind, hey, we're trying to tank, but still, it was frustrating to watch. But this offense, I think it puts guys in a best place to make them successful. And that's what you want to see, especially guys like Isaiah Stewart that's benefiting from it. You're allowing guys like Assar to push the ball up the floor and make plays. Like I said, I'm really liking that. Obviously, just to see Cade flourish the way he is over these 3 games and establish himself as a young up-and-coming star in this league, it's all working well. It's all even for Killian Hayes, even though he had a tough game, 2 games back, he couldn't knock down a 3. Hey, the mid-range was working just fine that game. So, Monty already mentioned that he has no problem with guys shooting the mid-range. And that we know that's one of Cade's butter spots too. So, like I said, whatever works. And I think that's what they're doing right now. And I'm liking what I'm seeing.
Let's not start the Killian Hayes talk just quite yet, because on this podcast we really do dive into Killian Hayes quite a bit. It seems like every week we have at least 1 or 2 topics about him. But Anthony, same question. What are you most impressed with by the Pistons this season?
That they are 3rd in rebounding in the NBA, 4th in assists in the NBA, and 4th in opponents' points per game. Like, again, I said it earlier, I have not seen this type of basketball. I know it's 3 games, and maybe I sound like a homer. I haven't seen this type of team basketball, togetherness, brotherhood since Chauncey, Rip, Ben, and Tayshaun. Like, I haven't seen it. Like, King, we suffered through the Josh Smith era with Mo Cheeks.
Oh, my God.
Like, it feels so good. Like, the ball movement, man, it's beautiful. The backdoor cuts, the switching on defense, the communication. Like, oh, yeah, they're top 3 in blocks, too. Like, they're 3rd in blocks. Like, what? Like, Jaylen Durant's almost averaging 3 blocks per game in 3 games. I know, like I said, I know it's 3 games, but, like, man, the team basketball and the togetherness, like, dude, I'm here for it. I love it. I think that's what's made the Pistons so successful. When you look at their championship years, it's not scoring 50 points and 0 assists, Zach LaVine. It's, team basketball. Like, if I score 10 points and you score 15, I'm okay with it. I think that's what makes, all those great Piston championship teams, why they won championships is because they left their ego out the door, and they were just they were a group together that, I don't care if, you shoot the last shot, I'm good with it.
Yeah, no, I mean, everything about this team, like you were saying, just the way they're holding opponents, how many 3 guys averaging double digits in rebounds. Jaylen Durant, I mean, I thought maybe he'd average like 13 points per game. And I mean, it could drop. You never know. Like you're saying, it's only 3 games, but average 18 and 15 with 3 blocks, 4 assists, a steal per game, shooting 80% from the field, hitting his free throws, Cade actually getting to the line. Killian Hayes, small improvement. Isaiah Stewart, like, looking like nobody is going to question the contract ever again, because now it's starting to look like it could be a bargain at what he's getting paid. Everything about this team has just been impressive. Like, it's hard to complain. And again, it is only 3 games, but damn, it's a good 3 games, and it just caught all of us. I think it's safe to say it caught all of us off by surprise.
Yeah, absolutely. We're a little bit older, right?
Yeah.
It's a lot of young Pistons fans out there. We've seen this type of thing before where it's not about everybody scoring 20 points, 30 points. Hey, listen, we're going to go out there. It's going to be a straight team basketball. You know what I'm saying? That's what we've been seeing with these guys. It don't matter. Hey, it might be your night. It might be your night. Listen, let's just get the job done. We're going to play team defense. We're going to share the basketball. We're going to, hey, those backdoor cuts, whatever we got to do to beat this team is what we're going to do. That is Pistons basketball. That is, strictly Pistons basketball. We always break the code. You know, it's an offensive league, right? You hear all of these things. We always equalize that. We come in and we change things. You know what I'm saying? It's like every a couple of decades or so, we come and we equalize things, man. We say, hey, listen, defense is a part of the game too. And we can beat you strictly by playing defense. Hey, Zach LaVine, you can score 70 if you want to, but nobody else on your team is going to score. Yep. You know what I'm saying? So, like I said, those are the type of things I love about Pistons basketball, and I'm glad to see it back.
Yeah, man, it seems that's another thing I don't want to get into this too much, but like for the younger Pistons fans, it's pretty cool now that they get to see a team like this. Because man, just a couple years ago, we were rooting for Svi Mykhailiuk. No offense to him, but that dude has 1 foot out the door in the NBA. And I remember guys comparing him to Klay Thompson and getting hyped about that guy. And it's just crazy to see how far we've come in just a short amount of time. And there is one thing about the younger generation of Pistons fans, and I'm not trying to call you guys out. It's just that sometimes your patience is very short. And I think all of us on this podcast right now, we knew it would take a couple years for the Pistons to get good. Again, it's only 3 games, but I believed in Troy Weaver. I believed he was going to do those things, and we're starting to see his plan and actually come to fruition. Like, this is what he wanted just in these short amount of games. This is how he expected the team to play. And they're just young. They're not even hitting their primes yet. And I know I'm going all over the place, but for the young Pistons fans, enjoy this ride while it happens, because it's going to be a roller coaster ride all season. It's going to be some highs, going to be some lows, but also just remember to be patient and that this is a long process to build a winner. Like, we sat through some bad years before the Pistons won the championship. Before Rasheed Wallace got here, we were a 50-win team in the Going Work squad. And it was fun to see 50 wins, but we didn't have that player that had pushed us over the hump. And we all knew once we get that one guy, we are going to be a force in the NBA. And that's what happened. So for the young generation, again, enjoy this, but also just be patient, because, man, it takes a while to build a contender. But I think we're starting to see a potential Eastern Conference contender coming in Detroit. It may not be this year, it may not be next year, but in the short future, I believe this team will do it. So, anyways, we've talked about some positive things. Now we got to talk about some negative things. And the things that have disappointed us so far this season, or things we want to see improved. Cade's turnover ratio, the turnovers, he averaging almost 5 a game. There have been some sloppy passes by him. I want to see that improve. I think that will happen as he, gets more comfortable and gets the conditioning down. But Jaden Ivy, this has been the most disappointing thing about me for the Pistons. And I know it's not all of his fault. He's a young player. He's only 21, but he's been forcing things a little bit. And I've talked about on this podcast, I don't like the hero ball from him. I don't want him to try to do it all himself. And I think we've seen that early on in the season. He did have 18 against Charlotte. He played within more of the system. But the reason I'm disappointed with Jaden Ivy is because personally, I had such high expectations for him. I thought it would be him and Cade leading this team early on in the season. I didn't think it would be Cade and Durant. I thought Durant would be, just kind of like the enforcer along with Isaiah Stewart. But he has turned into more of a franchise player early on in the season. So for me, so far, the disappointing thing, the thing I would like to see improve is Jaden Ivy. And I want to see him try to fit more within this offense. But what about you guys?
Me personally, turnovers really irks my nerves. Lazy passes, a lot of sloppy dribbling out there. But I kind of expect that. It's the beginning of the season, right? We got a young team. Nobody's older than 25, right? So I kind of expect it. As far as the Ivy situation goes, I just don't want him to continue to play with that chip on his shoulder, thinking he has to be a world beater. You're part of the team now. You know what I'm saying? Everybody should be at that same level. We have a leader in this team in Cade that he doesn't put himself above everybody else. Even though he may be more talented, even though he may be the leader of his team, you never see him put himself above everyone else. Everyone is together on his team. So Ivy, you don't have to press. You don't have to, try to do too much out there. The missed dunk situation, happened last night. I mean, it happens. You know what I'm saying? I know you want to wow the crowd, like I said, but man, just dunk the ball, lay it up. You know what I'm saying? And I want you to think about that as far as you being out there on the court. Go out there and just fit in with everybody else, and focus on what you're really good at. Don't try to press. That's what I want to see from Ivy.
Yeah. I would probably say from a team perspective, turnovers. I think we can all agree there. I think they did a better job last night. They didn't have like 25 turnovers. But again, early on in the season, I think they will clean up the turnovers because we've just kind of seen what they can be with the ball movement and the player movement, and just the sets they're running. Like, didn't see that last year at all. Like, it was just like dribble, like ISO for 18 seconds. So from a team perspective, I would say turnovers. With the Ivy thing, I'm not really too worried about it because what I've seen from him in the preseason and even last night is effort on the defensive end. I didn't really see that last year. And I think Monty's getting to him. He's not so much picking on him. He's like, hey, like, we want you to be that spark plug off the bench. We need you to defend. We need your 3-point shooting. We need your explosiveness to the basket because you are a very big piece to this team. It doesn't really matter whether you're starting or coming off the bench. I know a lot of Pistons fans, I don't get it. I've had so many questions. Why is Killian starting? They just can't wrap their head around this. Killian Hayes shouldn't be starting. Jaden Ivy should be starting. I look at a guy like Vinnie Johnson. Like Vinnie Johnson, and I know I'm probably dating myself a little bit. He probably could have started over Joe Dumars, but he didn't. But he was that spark plug off the bench when the Pistons needed it. And I think that's what Jaden Ivy's role could actually be. He could be that Lou Williams, Jamal Crawford type where you need like a cool 15. I got you. And I think that's a perfect role for him right now. Maybe eventually he can crack that starting lineup down the line when he can prove to Monty Williams that he can play defensively and offensively, but I'm not really too worried about Jaden Ivy right now.
I mean, dude, Mike James averaged 20 points per game when he got his opportunity, and he came off the bench for the Pistons along with Lindsey Hunter when we won the championship. I mean, I'll say it again. It's not a demotion coming off the bench for Jaden Ivy. It's just, again, the reason I was so disappointed in so far with him is just my personal expectations for him. I mean, they have definitely cooled quite a bit. I mean, I still got a lot of love for Jaden Ivy, but the personal accomplishments I thought he could achieve, those have kind of gone out the window for me, where I don't necessarily still see an all-star from him. But again, that's just me as a fan, where I'm like, I want to see this guy climb as high as he can in his career. I want to root for him. But I mean, to your point, even just being a six man, it's still a huge role in today's NBA. Like, you need a guy that can come and get you a couple buckets off the bench, a guy that can, maybe even initiate something defensively. We haven't seen it, but the effort has been there. I don't really even know what else to say, man. I mean, it's just, I hate to even say I'm disappointed in Jaden Ivy, because that just seems unfair to say that about a player that still is playing pretty well for the Pistons. But man, it's just, again, just those personal expectations I had for him, man. It really blocked my view of like how he was as a player, and maybe just the great rookie season he had played a lot into it as well. But I don't know. I can't really say much more about Jaden Ivy, man. I'm just going to keep talking in circles. It's just, but I also agree with all of you guys too. Like, the turnovers, that has been huge. The offense in the starting lineup, which we'll talk here in a second about, that has been a little disappointing, because the other thing too that's been disappointing is Cade continues to get this double teamed all the time during games, and he finds these guys. But outside of Isaiah Stewart, Jaylen Durant, and Assar Thompson finishing at the rim, those guys really haven't been hitting too many shots outside of the paint. And that is something that's a little disappointing, because if the Pistons want to continue to win, that is something they're going to have to figure out, whether it's moving Alec Burke to the starting lineup, or when Bojan comes back, he goes into the starting lineup. There's going to have to be improvements on this team. And, it's fun early on, but again, they will hit a wall at some point this season, and they're going to have to figure it out. There's the young team outpacing everybody, it seems like, right now. But we can talk about the starting lineup. So the Pistons are winning despite their starting lineup being less than spectacular on offense. I'm liking Monty's rotations. I spoke about that earlier on the podcast. I love how he gets Alec Burks early in the game, because lineups with Alec Burks, they perform so much better offensively. So the starting lineup, and I saw this from Sam Vecini, and I looked it up myself. I don't really know how to read numbers that well, but I'm someone that's listening to this can interpret it better than me. But the starting lineup of Cade, Killian, Assar, Stu, and Jaylen Durant, I think they've played a total of like 40 minutes together. Their defensive rating is 106. Their offensive rating is 95. Their net is minus 10.9. And then when you have Burks in the lineup with Assar, Cade, Isaiah Stewart, and Jaylen Durant, the defense is 76, the offense is 137, and the net rating is plus 60. But I think they've only played a combined like 12 minutes together or something like that during the season. So my question is, do you guys think this is the starting lineup long term for the Pistons, or do you think changes are going to happen?
I think most definitely we're going to see a change eventually. I just want to say this, which a lot of people might find interesting. I actually prefer that Ivy would have started at 2 next to Cade. And the reason why is because, just like you were just mentioning, he could provide some offense when you need that offense out there. He has been playing defense. I prefer Killian with the second unit simply because you have a better option of shooters out there, which he feeds guys. So, and also he could be a stabilizer on that second unit, especially when it comes to turning over the basketball. So, I wouldn't have had a problem with that. But I can also see why Monty Williams said, hey, I'm going to start Killian. He had a great camp, but defensively, he's a bigger guard. He likes bigger guards. And, Killian, he can check your best guy out there. I watched a play yesterday where he was boxing out Vucevic yesterday. You know what I'm saying? So, it's the things that a lot of people don't see out there.
Yeah.
But defensively, you can throw him on that bigger guard at times. So I get it. But we'll see how long it lasts, right?
Yeah, one thing I was thinking about, and I tried tweeting this out at someone, but I could not find. I'm sometimes bad at writing, especially on Twitter. But what I would have liked to see is I wouldn't mind seeing Killian come off the bench, because if Assar gets into foul trouble, you have a great defender in Assar already. If he gets into foul trouble, he gets tired, you can throw another dog defensively right off the bench and just continue that energy on that side. I feel like it's kind of redundant to have Assar and Killian Hayes in the starting lineup, considering the fact that both of their offense really isn't that good. I would rather have like an Alec Burke or a Jaden Ivy start alongside Cade just to provide a little bit more. I would prefer Alec Burke right now just because he is a floor spacer. And when teams do double team Cade, he has someone that's a knockdown shooter that he can find on the perimeter. But I just think, again, it's hard for me to even complain about what Monty's doing, because they are 2-1 and they have been playing pretty well. But I would have rather have Killian Hayes come off the bench just for the defensive purpose. Not so much as just like the playmaking. He is good at that, but you throw Assar at, like, just for example, Zach LaVine, and then Assar comes out, who's sitting at the scores table ready to check in? Killian Hayes. And he just keeps up that defensive intensity on Zach LaVine, and they just keep switching on the best player. Like, that would be a headache, in my opinion, if you're a player coming to play against the Pistons, because as soon as you take out one good defender, you're throwing in another one at me. And I don't know. That's just what I would have liked to see, and I hope we do see it eventually with the starting lineup. But, Anthony, do you see changes coming to this starting lineup?
No, I don't.
Okay. How long do you
Here's the thing with Killian Hayes, and I think a lot of fans hate Killian Hayes, and I think if you know the context, you know why. Like they look at the draft, like, oh, could have had Halliburton. Like, shut up. I think what Killian Hayes provides is playmaking, defense, switchability, and being able to guard 1 through 4, even 1 through 5. Like King said, he was boxing out with a 30-year-old Vucevic can literally get 20 in his sleep. I think Killian Hayes to me is more valuable in the starting lineup, and Monty Williams likes that versatility. Like King said, he likes those bigger guards that's able to defend and switch. Not saying that Ivy can't do that. I think he can get there, but I think for Monty to be comfortable with Ivy in the starting lineup, he's going to have to show that same level of effort on the defensive end that Killian Hayes has been showing within this first 3 games. And Lance, me and you talked about it last week. Like, we're talking about why not play Cade off ball and Ivy at the point guard. Like, I think you could do that too. Like, this team has a lot of depth. I don't think Ivy going to the bench, he's going to be there forever, even though Troy Weaver kind of comped him to Harden and OKC, which I know a lot of fans got pissed off about that this week. But hey, man, like I said, we're fans. We're not experts. We're not coaches. We're just giving our opinions. You guys may think it's different, but I think if Killian is still in your starting lineup, it's not a problem. Do I wish he could score 10 points a game? Yeah, that'd be huge. But I will take the defense over him struggling offensively with Assar out there because, again, 101 points a game they're allowing in 2023. Like, come on, man. Like, teams are scoring like 120, 130, and these guys are holding, Miami to 103 points, Charlotte to 99 points. Like, no, like I don't need Ivy in the starting lineup right now. I think where he's at right now benefits the team more rather than him starting because nothing against him and Cade really didn't get to play together last year. I think that having Killian out there, yeah, obviously the shots aren't always going to fall, but I think defensively with him and Assar, I'm here for it. Like, I'm not going to make any changes.
But okay, do you think the Pistons holding opponents to 101 points is because of Assar and Killian Hayes defensively, or do you think it's more to do with Isaiah Stewart and then even Jaylen Durant taking a leap defensively? Do you think who do you think has had the bigger impact defensively between those 4 players? Because I think Durant stepping up defensively, blocking shots, intimidating people at the rim, that has a greater effect defensively than what Killian Hayes has done. And I'm not trying to throw Killian Hayes under the bus. I mean, there are things I like about his game, and we've talked about it plenty of times on this podcast, what kind of role I would like to see him in. And I feel like the Pistons are doing that. He's playing better, not just not offensively. It's just not there yet for him. But defensively, I think it has more to do with Durant and even a lot to do with Assar more than Killian Hayes because he's flying around. He can cover so much ground. He can defend positions basically 1 through 5, it seems like. And then Isaiah Stewart, he's been staying patient defensively. But let me get back to the original question. Do you think it has more to do with Killian Hayes and Assar holding opponents to 101, or do you think it has more to do with Isaiah Stewart and Jaylen Durant defensively?
I don't think it's an individual. I think it's team.
It's the team.
I don't think like I just don't think it's Assar, even though he's been great. Like, I want to say he's been great. Like, rookies should not be able to defend like that. I want to say that. But I think it's just the team defense. Like, if this was the Wayne Casey team, like, no one would be communicating on backdoor cuts. We'd probably be giving up like 110, 120 points a game. I think it's just the team defense and them communicating. Like, you could hear Durant, Stewart, Killian, Assar, and Cade. Man, they're yelling at each other like backdoor, backdoor. They're pointing on defense. I think it has more to do with the team, and I know that's probably not the answer you want to hear, Lance. But to me, when I'm watching them play defense through these first 3 games, it's just team defense. I don't think it's an individual where you can really say, well, that's the reason why they're the 4th best team in the NBA defensively. I think it's just team as a whole.
No, I mean, I wasn't saying necessarily like individual defense. I was saying, do you think it's more because of the perimeter defense that those 2 are playing, or just more of Isaiah Stewart and Jaylen Durant? I Isaiah Stewart's more of his switchability, but also more of Jaylen Durant's being able to redirect shots. And because, I mean, we all saw with Dwight Howard when he was in Orlando, he drastically changed the way they played defense. Like, guards were afraid to go to the paint against Dwight Howard. And I feel like Durant early on is having almost that same effect. Maybe not to the same degree that Dwight Howard was having, but I think a lot of this defense, again, it is a team effort. You both are right on that. I just think that the defense, it's been better because of the improvements from Durant and Isaiah Stewart and versus Assar Thompson and Killian Hayes. Like, again, I also think too that the starting lineup just needs a little bit more offense because the team defense is so good. Like, it's fine if you take one of these guys out of the lineup as long as you can start hitting more shots. I would rather, because the game at the end of the day, it's still putting up more points. Who can put up more points? As long as you can get a few stops during the game, you have a chance. But it's all about still putting the ball in the basket. But King, if you want to jump in, feel free at anything that we're saying.
I think you both were right, to be honest. Yeah, we used to get pounded in the paint. Guards would just go into the hole at will, when we had Dwayne Casey here. Right now, Jaylen Durant is changing a lot of that. And, but it's not just him at the same time. I mean, we talked about Kyle Lowry. Well, one of Kyle Lowry's biggest problems, he had Killian in his face. You know what I'm saying? So I think on both sides, they contribute to everything. These guys, they switch, they move and rotate. You see help side defense, something that's been alienated here in Detroit for forever. But, like I said, on both sides, you just seen a jump in improvement because they're buying in and doing this thing together. Now, when it comes to guys like Jaylen Durant and Isaiah Stewart, them just being a presence on both sides of the court. At the same time, they're wearing you out, rebounding the ball, putting you in the post, doing all type of things. You running through, pick and rolls and everything else. On the defensive side, it makes it a little bit easier for them. You know what I'm saying? So, like I said, everything is working out for itself. When you want to throw offense in there, though, you got options to pull guys off the bench to inject some offense whenever you want to. You know what I'm saying? So, like I said, the smothering defense probably is the thing. But I can totally understand where you're coming from when you're saying you need offense. Buckets win the game. But if your buckets are matching the other team's buckets, you're probably going to still lose. We've seen that a lot with the Pistons. You know what I'm saying? So you got to be able to stop the other guy. We got to be able to stop the other guy from scoring. That's our trademark, you know what I'm saying, with Pistons teams. So, yeah. I think everything will balance itself out.
I mean, I think this summer you had asked me what's more valuable, Assar starting or Jaden Ivy off the bench. And I told you Assar starting because there was in the fourth quarter last night against Levine, he forced so many turnovers, or he had a block shot in the corner. He had a steal when he was trailing behind him, and he turned that defense into offense. So I think that would be my answer too. I think I'm not really worried. Like, if he can develop a 3-point shot, both of him and Killian Hayes, like, that's good. That's fine. Like, I think a lot of teams, they would rather gamble on a guy that can show it all out there 48 minutes on the defensive end than maybe a guy that is an average defender that can get you 20. Like, we have that in Bojan. Like, if Bojan was in the starting lineup, are they probably the same defensive team? No, they're not. But like I said, it's a trade-off you have to kind of gamble with when you're a coach. But I think Monty has really just found a good balance between the bench and the starting unit, and I'll just leave it at that.
I got you. So I will ask this question. I'm going to try to reword it a little differently. It was a topic, but I'm glad we got rid of it because, I don't want to touch too much on it. But whose defense outweighs the offense a little bit more? I'm going to keep Durant and Isaiah Stewart out of this because they both are averaging a double-double on pretty solid percentages. But between Killian Hayes and Assar Thompson, whose defense outweighs their offense? Because both of them are not there offensively yet. I think Killian Hayes, he's still a jump shot away. I think we all believe that. He's shown improvements. Assar Thompson, he's shown some flashes of being a knockdown shooter, but offensively, he can still finish at the rim, whether it's around guys, over him. He can still get to the line, and he's one hell of a playmaker too. But between those two, whose defense outweighs their offense, in your guys' opinion?
I'm going to go with I'm going to go with Assar.
Okay.
I'm going to go with Assar. Said rookie coming in. we knew it was going to take some time for him to even develop, that part of his game, right? When you look at guys like Killian at least has a 15-footer. He around that free throw line, he can get a guy behind him and knock a shot down. With Assar, we've seen flashes of him be able, to catch the ball and shoot from the 3-point line, but it just hasn't been enough. It's not enough of a sample size. So he does so many other things, but defensively, I mean, this dude walked out his first game and was blocking everything. You know what I'm saying? So, and he's so long, man, and he's so gifted with moving his feet. So I'm definitely going to go with Assar.
What about you, Anthony? The same question.
Probably the same answer. I mean, like, how can you not pick Assar Thompson? Like, I think when a lot of people were doing their draft evaluation, like, some people were telling us, like, oh, no, it means the better twin. Like, I'd argue that Assar, to me, defensively is the better twin. I just think what he does. Now, I was kind of getting into the debate last night on Twitter. People's like, when's the last time we had a wing like this? And I was like, Tayshaun. But I mean, you could go a step farther and say he's like a mini Dennis Rodman in a sense where he can grab a rebound. I saw him grab a rebound out of Andre Drummond's hands. He jumped over him, grabbed the rebound, pushes the floor, and scored. Like, he's got so much like Dennis Rodman in his game where I'm like, dude, like, if he can just play it like that and he hits it and he can develop a jump shot, holy shit, you got like Kawhi-esque type defense and you get that offense going. Like, man, sky's the limit with that kid.
Dude, he does. Like, isn't it weird to say, though, this is a non-Piston, but he kind of has like almost a Scottie Pippen like game to his, defensively and how he can push the floor. Like, he just doesn't have the shot yet. I mean, it's inconsistent, but man, like, I kind of get some Scottie Pippen vibes from him when you're watching both of them play. Dennis Rodman is a good one. I just think he's already a better offensive player than Dennis Rodman ever was. But man, he's amazing, dude.
Like, defensively though, that's what I'm saying. Like, if you watch Dennis Rodman, like, he could guard 1 through 5, and I think Assar can do that. And like the way he just goes up for a rebound, like, that's what it reminds me of Dennis Rodman. Like, he is just so fierce. And he's like, I'm gonna grab that shit, and you're not gonna get it. Like, I love that. I love that energy.
Dude, his energy from game to game and just his movement, how he's one place and then the next place. It's like almost like kind of like how like Goku would just flash from point to point in Dragon Ball Z. It's just incredible how he does it. I know I'm getting kind of nerdy a little bit, but it's just crazy how he does it. Like, I don't know how he gets from one side of the court to the next. It's just
he's bringing it out. It's got his Goku doll.
Oh, man. Saying one at that as well. That is, man, it's just crazy. So let me ask you guys this. The former 5th overall pick, Jaden Ivy, he's found himself coming off the bench in the first 3 games to start the season. We already all know that, so we're not going to talk about that. Against Charlie at 18 points, he looked more comfortable in the 0.5 offense. Do you guys think at some point he is going to be the starter for the Pistons?
Me personally, I do. I still think he has worlds of talent. Like I say, he's still young, second year. But yeah, I think eventually, especially after the deadline, we'll see what happens around the deadline. With a little bit of roster relief. I don't know who we're gonna bring here, what we're gonna do, but I think eventually, man, he's gonna be too talented to keep on the bench. I think he's gonna continue to improve at a rapid rate. I just know his work ethic, man. Jaden is a dog. He works. So I think, eventually you're going to say, hey, man, we can't keep this guy on the bench, and you'll see him in that starting lineup.
What about you, Anthony? Because I know you said you would not touch the starting lineup, but do you think Jaden Ivy starts for the Pistons at some point during the season?
I think he does. And the only reason why I said that is because it's gelling right now and it's working. Like, if it wasn't working and like maybe the Pistons were like 1-2 or 0-3, then yeah, maybe you mess with the lineup a little bit. But they're 2-1. I can't remember the last time they were 2-1. Like, I really can't. Man. It's been rough. But I do think he will eventually crack the starting lineup. I think a backcourt with him and Cade is just something that I think a lot of Pistons fans like, dude, there's like so much potential offensively. Jaden Ivy can be more of that slasher playoff ball. And they're like vice versa. Like Kate could play off ball, Ivy could play point guard. I do think you will see him in the starting lineup. I just don't know when. I just think Monty is just waiting for him to just like finally just crack and get it and like play as fierce as he does on the offensive end, on the defensive end. And I think when that happens, he will crack that starting lineup.
Dude, you know the last time we saw the Pistons win 2 straight was last November against the Denver Nuggets and the Utah Jazz. They beat the Nuggets 110-108, and then they beat the Jazz 125-116. And that was their 4th and 5th wins of the season. Last time we saw a 2-game win streak. That is crazy. You know, that was freaking 19 games into the 20 games into the season. Yeah, I'm with both of you guys though, but I also think that we don't see Jaden Ivy start at all unless there's an injury during this season. I think there's a real chance where he continues to play off the bench, and I think you and I both thought he would average close to 20 points per game. Dude, there might even be a realistic chance where he doesn't even average more than 14. Like, I'm kind of, and again, I'm not trying to be negative. I just see like, you know, with Bojan, Isaiah Livers, and Morris coming back, we're starting to see Marcus Sasser get more minutes per game. Killian Hayes, you know, like you guys are saying, Monty loves the big guards. His defense is light years ahead of Ivy right now. There could be a real chance where we don't even see Ivy play more than like 22 minutes per game. And maybe that is the best role for him this year, which is so crazy because of how good of a rookie season he had. I think I'm going to go against what you guys are saying. I don't think we see him start this season unless there's some injuries to the team, which I'm not going to bank on. I think this team's going to be healthy for the most part. But I will say I don't see Jaden Ivy starting this year. And I'm okay with that. I'm okay with him coming off the bench for the Pistons.
Lance with the hot take.
Yeah, like I said, I think some of those veterans, man, they're here for, you know, the growth process, and then they'll be moving on politely. So, like I said, the trade deadline is going to be important, very important, to see who sticks around, because guys like Bojan, even Burks, man, we got to let these guys free. You know what I'm saying? It's good to have them around right now, but they deserve to be on a contender somewhere. And this season right now, we're just trying to push and hopefully get to a play-in position. So, like I said, I think they're here for the ride right now. But eventually, I think guys like Ivy, they start to climb and get a chance to get into that starting lineup.
But you don't think guys like Alec Burks and Bojan could be on this team to help them get to the play-in, or are you saying trade them before or at the deadline?
I would say this: you have to commit to a guy like Bojan.
Yeah.
Because, like I said, his value is not going to get any higher.
True.
So you got to make that decision. And that's going to be interesting to see Troy Weaver do, man, because, like I said, if you're not going to buy in, you got to move him. It's one or the other. So, you know, these guys are a little bit, they're older. Not a little bit older, they're older. So, yeah, it's one thing or the other.
Yeah, I always forget that Alec Burks is like 32 years old. I thought for some reason he's like 29 or 30. He is a little bit older, but I think he's one of the more valuable players in the NBA for what he can do and what he can provide off a team's bench. But if the Pistons continue to play well and we're kind of already talking about it now, so we'll just dive right into it. Do you see them making a trade for a player to put them over the top? And can you name us a player that you would like to see them bring in that could move the Pistons over the top? And I'll start with you, King.
I think right now the goal is for play-in, or try to get to the playoffs, crack the playoffs. I don't think we're at that point yet where we go and get a guy that, you know, push us over the top and have us competing. I don't think we're there yet. Yeah. We're right there, but we're not there yet. So I think we're still a year away from that.
I agree with you on that too.
Yeah, that's just where I am.
You know, I don't know if you guys got to watch the Pistons Pulse interview with Arn Tellem. It was like a little 12-minute interview. He hinted, now he didn't say this year, but he said, you know, we're keeping our cap flexibility open. And when it's time to go after that big name, we'll go after it. And he kind of hinted that it may be next season. Yeah. There may be a guy that we're looking for. And we still have an open roster spot, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
They haven't filled it. Now, I think if they keep the pace that they're on, like, let's say they just shatter expectations, hypothetically, before people roast me in the chat, let's say they already have their 35 wins and maybe they're like a 7 seed or something like that. And there's a player like a disgruntled star or maybe an above average role player to kind of get them over the top. Yeah, I could see it, but I think a lot of things have to go right. They have to stay healthy. Like there's so many things that have to go right for them to do that. But I kind of found it interesting that Arntelm kind of like teased that like, yeah, well, like we got our core in place. We think they're special, but we want to see what they do this year. But eventually we're going to go big game hunting for a big name free agent to, bring a star in and, try to, push back into the playoffs and start winning some playoff series again.
Yeah, we talked about that on this podcast. We want to see what this team is like if Cade shows that he can be I think we said a top 25 player. Like if you start to see him develop into that type of guy, then next season is when you go out and you get a Pascal Siakam, or I think some people were saying a Karl Anthony Towns, or some type of player like that where they might need a change of scenery. They're a little bit older, but they can still contribute and help push you over the top. I mean, man, I could dude, I mean, I think we were talking about him last week. I really wouldn't mind the Pistons going after like a Karl Anthony Towns. I've changed my tune on it. I know the contract is massive, and that's the only part that sucks about it. But I know he's not playing super well right now. I think he's only averaging like 15 a game. And I mean, I think he was coming off an injury too last year. He only played 29 games. But that's a guy in that type of talent where you could see that guy meshing well with a Cade Cunningham and like a Jaylen Durant. That would be a pretty nasty team if you could bring in someone like that. But that's one name I'll throw out there for the Pistons to go after that could push them over the top.
Do you remember the player that Corey and I were talking about last week?
It's on the tip of my tongue, but I do not remember who you guys were talking about.
Brandon Ingram.
Yeah, that's right. Brandon Ingram. Now I remember. Yup.
Yeah, there's a couple teams where I'm looking at Phoenix because I know it's going to just end disastrously. Like, I don't see them, like, even though, like, offensively, like, that team should win a title, something in my gut tells me it's not going to work out. Maybe Book wants to come home. I don't know. Maybe that's an option, something you got to monitor. And I've always been a real big fan of Brandon Ingram ever since the Lakers drafted him. I'm sure it would probably cost a whole lot from the Pelicans. I know some people are finally on the bandwagon with me. I've been saying Lauri Markkanen for a damn year. I think Lauri Markkanen at the 4 would be amazing. I really don't know what Danny Ainge would want. I think the only white guy we have is Bojan. I don't know if he'd want him back, but, that was a little inside joke from last week. But I don't know. I'm just spitballing some guys. I probably wouldn't want Karl Anthony Towns Lance just from the standpoint of I look at his contract and it's gross.
That's the down part.
He doesn't feel like Karl Anthony Towns. He's talented, but he doesn't feel like a Troy guy.
Yeah, I could agree with that too.
Like he's talented, but like, could he buy in to play defense? Like that's my thing.
I mean, he's averaging 2 blocks right now. It's only been 2 games, but he's only had 1 year where he didn't average a block, and that was last year. But he's always been a decent. He can at least block a shot. We'll just say that. Were you about to say something, King?
No, I just lit up when he said Booker. I know a lot of fans, man. Booker and Kevin Durant's gonna hitch his wagon to him and come to. They seen him with the Detroit hats on and everything else, man. So it's a conspiracy theory crowd out there that I know would love that, man. So, but Book definitely is somebody I would love to see come here.
Dude, I know I said Karl Anthony Towns, but Brandon Ingram, I love him, and Devin Booker, that would be amazing. It's so crazy to me that he's still only like 26. I think he's only 26 years. Yeah, he's only 26 years old, and he seems like he's been playing in the NBA forever. And his contract, I mean, dude, I think it ends. Does it end after this year, or did he sign a new extension?
Devin Booker, yeah, it ends, but he's eligible for like a $200 million contract. Like I said, I would keep if I'm a Piston fan, tune in the Phoenix games and see if they just implode. Like if I'm a Piston fan, I'm hoping that like they don't make the playoffs. It's like a first round exit, like because there's no way financially they can keep all of those players together because they'll go over their second apron, and Matt Ishbia will probably have to take out a loan to afford all those guys because like you got KD, Beal, Booker, like that's going to be expensive to keep.
Okay, but then who are we giving up? Like, we already know my thoughts on this. We could go with that. Then we have another guest. King, who would you give up for Devin Booker from this team? I've said I'd be willing to trade Jaden Ivy and some pieces for Devin Booker.
Oh, boy.
You guys brought him up.
That's a tough one, man. I think if you make a move of that caliber, you have to give up someone of Ivy's caliber in order to make that happen. So, yeah, I kind of agree with you on that situation. It probably ends up being a guy like Ivy. You're not moving Durant, you're not moving Cade, obviously. So, I'm on the same page with you.
Okay. Yeah, because I think Cade and now Durant, those two are untouchable for the Pistons. Those two for sure. And I think Assar Thompson is as close to being untouchable on the Pistons, even it's only been 3 games, but I think he's as close to untouchable as he possibly can be. You know?
See, Lance, this is what I'm talking about, man. Every week, like, shout out to Mega Hustle. He's on every podcast. Lance is always trying to trade Ivy, like, every week, bro. Like King last year, because I kind of made a joke with Lance. Like, he has, like, a bullseye board in his room, and he had Saddiq Bey on it last year, and he threw it. And every week, we got to get rid of Saddiq Bey. Saddiq Bey's I don't like Saddiq Bey. This year, it's Ivy. Like, he's got the bullseye and Jaden Ivy.
My when I talked about Saddiq Bey, it was fair though. I was not out of pocket with what I said. People can whatever, anybody can feel the way they want to feel, but I felt like I was being honest and true, and I was being very fair to Saddiq Bey, and he was traded, dude. He was traded. It happened. Again, I'm not advocating for Jaden Ivy to be traded. I'm just saying if a guy like Devin Booker became available and they were like, yeah, give us Jaden Ivy, give us so-and-so, 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 you make that trade. You make that trade.
Okay, so my guy Tristan, who is from Phoenix, and he lives in Phoenix right now, and he said this, and this has me really excited. I'm in Phoenix and I follow the team. You're not too far off with the that point you just made about Booker possibly coming to Detroit.
We can't do this to ourselves every week, though. We can't.
Hey, man, I'm a sicko. You know that. Yeah. I will talk. You know what? I'm gonna do a Photoshop Devin Booker tonight in a Pistons jersey, just for the hell of it.
What jersey do you want to see Booker in the most? Teal, the red alternates, or just the classic blues?
I'll do chrome for you, buddy.
Hey, last night there was a kid in a chrome jersey. I think it was a chrome Iverson jersey, and they showed him, and I was like, yes, that is my new favorite band. Yeah, I know, everybody has chrome jerseys.
Yeah, for me, it was the City Edition jerseys from last season. I'm not a fan. Look like Vernors bottles running up and down the court.
Dude, it's like Vernors and Blue Lives Matter out there with the red, black. Like, it looked like a Coke or Pepsi Zero and Vernors last year. Like, I just was not a fan of the jerseys.
They should get like a Fago themed jersey sometime. Why not? Keep it home. Okay, at the beginning of the season, I had said bring Isaiah Stewart off the bench. I changed my tune. I was always a believer in his defense. I'm just going to point that out. I have said plenty of times on this podcast, his ability to switch is invaluable and make things difficult for perimeter players. That's what he does. I no longer have concerns with Jaylen Durant and Isaiah Stewart starting together. And one of those reasons also is Marvin Bagley and the way he has played. I said this before we went on the podcast. He is more valuable in 22 minutes per game versus 28 per minute per game. I got my wishes, but my thoughts are to you guys. My question to you guys is, do you have any more concerns, if you did at all, about Isaiah Stewart and Jaylen Durant starting together?
Absolutely not. I knew that, Isaiah, his jump shot was going to start to trend upward. Okay. Like I said, just looking at it from a mechanic standpoint, him shooting a basketball last season, Obviously the type of worker he is. You say you can't do something, he's gonna work 10 times harder to try to prove you wrong. But him being able to show the ability to stretch the floor here and there, and the way that them two dog and they just they pound down there for the rebounds and everything else. He's always been a 4. He never was a 5 in this league. He was thrown into the fire like multiple players have been for the Pistons. So him playing against 4s, man, it's better suited for him, and I'm loving it. I'm loving every second of it.
What about you, Anthony? Are you have any more concerns? I don't even know if you did when we were talking.
No, I only questioned the perimeter play from Isaiah Stewart, and that's the only thing. And I think a lot of fans had that concern too.
Yeah,
it's because you see two big lineups. Like I saw the Lakers this week play Anthony Davis and Christian Wood together, which perimeter, we all know Christian Wood and Anthony Davis can shoot the basketball. I think that was my only concern with Stewart and Durant. But I think what Durant has done such a good job, and he's such a smart basketball player, is when he sees Stewart coming into the post, he gets out the way. So that way the it's not clogged in the lane. I think Durant's IQ is really underrated, and people don't talk about it enough, but been really impressed with the dog pound, as they call themselves. Love it.
Yeah, that's actually a really great nickname, by the way. I love the dog pound. I was going to ask this earlier. Do you guys have a nickname for Assar Thompson, since it seems like people have been asking about it on Twitter and other social media?
King, you had something you wanted to say?
Well, no. Yeah. Well, I just was going to say about Stu and
my bad.
Durant. I was just going to say one of the things is they actually want to play together. You know what I'm saying? We see a lot of teams put bigs together. These guys really don't even want to play together. Well, these guys, they actually love playing together, and they want to be out there together. So that's one factor too. As far as nicknames go, I don't have one, but I do want to give a shout out to my guy Deuce, because he came up with All-Star, and that's dope. You know what I'm saying? Because like I say, obviously you got Assar, but All-Star is, man, that's dope. I like that.
I saw a Twitter name, and he actually had it last year. It's a Pokemon themed Pistons Twitter name, but it's Assar. And I saw it, and I was just like, dude, that's, even though it's kind of like Pokemon, and probably some people that watch this wow, you guys play Pokemon, what do you do? But I think Assar, that's a good one. Assar. I don't know, man. I'm going to let the Piston Facebook groups and Pistons Twitter try to find a nickname for him, because I'm terrible with nicknames. I remember I wanted to call, I didn't want Isaiah Stewart's name to be Beef Stew, because I just thought it was just a bad nickname. Because when I think of Beef Stew, I just think of a big fat 300-pound guy.
Dude, when I heard the nickname Beef Stew the first time, and I'm sorry that I changed the topic on this, I redirected it, but I remember there was this kid in my high school, and every time we'd walk in the locker room, he'd always be like, "You smell that? It smells like beef stew." And it would always just be because all the football players would change in there, and it was more of an insult to how bad the locker room smells. I never wanted him to be called beef stew, but people love it. But I mean, I try to avoid calling him that, just because of what's in my head about it. I will say again, I don't have any concerns about these guys. Like I said earlier, I did want him to come off the bench, because I thought if you didn't have to play Marvin Bagley or James Wiseman, it was ultimately better for the Pistons. But Marvin Bagley, dude, he has played so well, it seems like, in a limited capacity. It's been great. I want to see him continue to get minutes. But man, Jaylen Durant, the improvements he made defensively, that was a big one. But Isaiah Stewart, just his three-point shot is falling. That's huge for the Pistons, and that's really what it was all about. The defense was always there, the switchability was always there. It was just that three-point shot, and hopefully continue to open up space for Cade. And as for a nickname for Assar, I was thinking about this the other night. Feel free to laugh at me if you guys hate it, but I was thinking Stretch Armstrong. Assar, Stretch Arm Thompson, just because he's kind of elastic a little bit when he's out there getting rebounds. But that's my nickname for Assar.
I mean, Monty Williams' nickname for Marcus Sasser was hilarious. He called him Old Wallet.
Oh my God,
that's terrible.
Hey, reliable though.
tough leather, Old
leather. I got one right now.
All right, let's before we move on to Q&A, we got one more thing, and we're going to talk about the most impressive player on the Pistons so far this season. I'm sure people will say Cade because he has shown out, but we knew he was every bit of the franchise player the moment he was drafted as a number 1 overall pick way back in 2021. For me, it has been Jaylen Durant. I've been talking about it a lot on this podcast. Just the way he stepped up defensively, shooting 80% from the field, averaging a double-double, leading the NBA in rebounds. He took a massive leap that I didn't think was going to be there at 19 years old still in the NBA. Jaylen Durant has been the most impressive. But what about you guys? Who's been the most impressive Pistons this season so far?
Yeah, I got to second that. I mean, Durant has been amazing. He's been amazing. So, I've been waiting for him to get this opportunity to play with Cade. But, just for instance, with him and Stu also, what I'm saying? Also, you got guys like Assar finding him as well for alley-oops and things like that. So, he's just flourishing, man. Defensively, I'm definitely impressed with that. It's something that I wanted to see improve for him, to just be that big presence around the rim and use that same athleticism to block shots, that you use to, catch alley-oops. So, yeah, I'm definitely going with Durant.
Okay. That's why I put Durant and Assar in this lower third. I think for me it has to be Durant just because one, he's shooting 80% from the field. He's leading the NBA in rebounds with 15.3 a game. I think Sabonis is at 15 right behind him. Almost 3 blocks a game. Like he went up against Bam Adebayo and held his own, who's one of the better centers in the NBA. Charlotte is probably kicking themselves in the foot for drafting Mark Williams over Jaylen Durant when they had the chance to. And then he did it again against one of the better offensive centers in Nikola Vucevic. Like, he's going out every night and holding his own against some of the better centers in the NBA. So for me, it has to be Durant, but I want to give Assar some love. I think he's a close second. I didn't expect this type of production on the defensive end of the floor, and just how smart he is as a basketball player. Like, that pass he had to Isaiah Stewart last night where he bounced it and Stewart just cut backdoor. That was beautiful.
Yeah, I completely forgot Vucevic played for the Bulls last night. I kept looking for him on the phone. I'm like, where the hell is this guy? And he was, I don't even know if he had 10 points against the Pistons. He completely disappeared against them. Jaylen Durant has just been an absolute monster. And I find it just so funny now how many of those lists we talked about on this podcast where they excluded him from like the best young big man, the top 24 centers. They literally put a list together of the top 24 centers and left him off there. I don't even think they mentioned him as an honorable mention. And again, I don't think any of us predicted this type of season from him this early on, but it seems so funny now that they left him off that list. Like, you couldn't have went back and watched and saw the potential and said, hey, once he gets a guy like Cade back, what would happen? And we're finally now seeing it. But yeah, Jaylen Durant. It's so hard for me to pick anybody else too. Like, I'm glad you said Assar, but Jaylen Durant's just been playing out of his mind. He looks like an all-star right now. Do anybody else have anything else to say about any of the topics or before we move on?
We got some pretty good nicknames, but I don't know if this one would hold up because it's Detroit and it's probably a little sensitive, but Switchblade for Assar.
I like that. It's pretty good.
Yeah, it's like I said, like he's saying Switchblade in Detroit probably doesn't go over well.
Yeah,
but I mean, like, I don't know.
Any other ones? Any other good nicknames?
Oh yeah, we got people want to call him Megatron. We already got a Megatron.
Yeah,
you can't do that.
Yeah, Assar Optimus Prime.
That's too long.
Yeah,
I think he needs a superhero nickname.
Skyhawk, Assar Skyhawk Thompson.
I like that one. Skyhawk, that's pretty cool.
Sorry.
It's not great, but it's pretty good. That's gonna be tough to give him a nickname.
Who has the best nickname on the team to you guys?
I'm not really in love with really any of them. To be honest with you, I mean, maybe Joe Harris, Beef Jerky Joe. That might be my favorite, but just because it's ridiculous. But I really don't have. I don't really have a favorite on this team. What about you?
Yeah, I would go with probably. I mean, I like Motorcade.
Yeah,
I like Killian Hayes. I do like that. It's got to be between them two.
I know.
Cade Icewood is more of a tribute to the city, so I see that in the comment section. But yeah, it's something simple.
Yeah, I mean,
Kate Icewood.
Yeah.
They were calling him something on Bally Sports last night, which I get it. But Johnny Kane said Deuce. Like he was like, "Oh, Deuce," and like I have like captions on, and my TV thought he said like shit.
Oh,
so
no.
it bleeped it out. I'm like, dude. Because every time he said Deuce, it was like shit with the shot. I was like, oh no.
Oh man,
that's terrible, man.
I have like Poison Ivy. I like that.
Yeah.
That's a good nickname.
Poison Ivy, yeah. I mean, that is his. I think that's his handle too, on IG. But
I mean, James Wiseman calls himself Big Ticket, which that's KG's, man.
Don't disrespect.
No, that's KG's.
Yeah,
to me that.
And I got a history of KG. Now KG was one of my favorite players growing up. I got pictures in Kevin Garnett jerseys and everything when I was little. Yeah. Don't disrespect them, Wiseman.
Yeah, it's a great nickname, but it's KG's. You can't call him that. Do we have any Q&A questions?
We do, but one of my funniest nicknames that we've ever got, when Killian Hayes sucker punched Mo Wagner last season, they were calling him Killa B Hayes. They even photoshopped his face on Muhammad Ali with the knockout punch with Mo Wagner on the floor.
Never seeing that.
Yeah, we'll do like maybe like one or two because I do have to get up early for work tomorrow. Because playoff football, man, it's crazy. It's crazy. This is a question from Trutella. Another question to ask. What do you do with Hayes going forward? The limited offense will catch up to Detroit when they play better teams. I know we kind of talked about it, but King and Lance, if you want to answer it, go for it.
What do you do with Killian Hayes going forward? I think eventually you do replace him in the starting lineup, and I would, like I said earlier, I would like to see Assar start. And when he's either getting in foul trouble or when you're ready to take him off, throw another good defender like Killian Hayes out on the floor to, just continue to disrupt the other team's opposing perimeter players. Whoever Assar starts guarding, whether it's like a Zach LaVine or, a Kawhi Leonard or a Paul George or any guy like that, as soon as Assar leaves, throw Killian Hayes right out on there because I do think that will ultimately cause opposing teams headaches when you have those two good defenders being thrown at a good offensive player. But that's what I would like to see. I mean, I think also keeping him, more as an off the ball player, allowing him to continue to focus on the things he's good at is a positive. I just don't see the need for him to really run the point when you have Cade, Ivy, Burks, Assar, and then Monte Morris eventually. I know Killian Hayes is a good playmaker, but I like him as more of a connector than a guy leading the offense.
And for me, it's more like, whatever Monty decides to do, to be honest. I just want Killian to have assignments. With Dwayne Casey, it was a privilege to stand in the corner. That type of crap. You know what I'm saying? That's where we coming from. You know what I'm saying? We're talking about a guy, a career record in Dwayne Casey over there. And I had mentioned, so I got to mention this. I had a good conversation with a couple of coworkers. And I remember at one time where we thought that Sekou was going to be something nice. And then a man named Dwayne Casey came and stuck him in a corner when he's a rim runner. You know what I'm saying? So, like I said, I just want to see Killian being put in a position that's going to make him successful at what he provides, which is playmaking, defense, Sometimes handling the basketball if necessary. We're going to have injuries. You never know what happens. As long as he's comfortable out there, I feel good about it.
I agree.
Yeah, I think I had your same like opinions with Sekou. Like I thought he was going to be really nice. Like it just makes me think like if Monty was the coach when Sekou was here, like he'd probably be amazing.
When I was doing a podcast before this called Everything Pistons, I would gone on there a couple times and said I did not see Sekou playing more than playing 7 years in the NBA, and he was out of I think after like 3 or 4. The only problem I had with Sekou was it was the fans. It was some of the fans, not all, just some, where they kept comparing him to Giannis and Pascal Siakam, and I'm like, dude, he doesn't have that motor, man. He doesn't play like those guys. Like those guys are just like they're the Energizer Bunny. They just do not stop. And Sekou, it seemed like you could easily throw him off his rhythm real quickly. Like there was a time, one of those games where he was sitting off the bench, like under the basket supported or near it, taking his shoes off. Like he seemed like he was just so disconnected from his team. It sucked.
Yeah, it's the coach too. Like imagine if Steph Curry went to Minnesota. He's probably not the same player.
Right.
I mean, I agree with you. I think there is a thing for some players. It is about the coaching, but I do think some players, no matter what situation they're in, they're going to thrive and they're going to be great. I mean, like I've said before on this podcast, you could have thrown Dwayne Wade on like the crappy Clippers teams back in the day, and he still would have been a Hall of Fame player.
I don't know. I mean, Minnesota.
We're Pistons fans, right? So a lot of those players that we had on this team, they had some journeys before they got here, and it just wasn't working out for them. And Chauncey Billups getting here and getting the coach that he did changed everything for him.
100%.
Yep. Certain players, certain situations.
All right. We'll do one more question and we'll wrap it up. I'm going to give the last question to my guy, Tristan. It's about your favorite player, Lance. So I got a question. What do you think about Liver's role on this team? Is it necessary to keep him since he can't stay healthy?
Dude, he's on a very friendly contract, and I think his rookie year, he only did play 19 games, but I think he shot 42% from 3. I think last year he was at like 36 or 37% when he was on the floor. So he can shoot the ball. He's a good defender. I don't think he's like a lockdown defender. I think, he's a guy that you could put out there when, especially now on this team, he'd probably look way better defensively. But, oh man, is it necessary to keep him? I would just give him the rest of this season. If you can stay healthy and you can find your shot again and you can play good defense, then it would be. But I really don't see a role for him right now on the Pistons with the way they're playing. So, yeah, I don't even know if it's really necessary to keep him.
He's got that Michigan flag up there. I always forget you're a Michigan fan.
Yeah, man. He's been breaking my heart for a while, man, with these injuries. Yeah, I just don't know where we have, the room for him. We just don't have the room for him. You know what I'm saying? So, I mean, it's never been about talent with Livers. He's always been a guy that's going to play defense. He's always been a guy that's going to knock down some shots. But you got to be on the court to do so. Yeah. And him being buried as far as he is right now, I just don't see any way to get him out there on the court.
Yeah, I think the talent's there. It's his health. To Tristan's point, does he have a role in this team? I would say his time window is this year, and if you can't put at least 65, 50 games together, I don't know if the Pistons are going to bring you back. Even though Troy Weaver speaks really highly of him, I think we all like his ability to stretch the floor, play defense. Great player, but the best availability is availability, and he just hasn't been available throughout his career. I love him as a player, like him as a person, nice guy. It's just you got to stay healthy. If he can stay healthy, sure, there's a role for him on this team. But to Tristan's point, he just can't stay healthy. They're freak injuries too. It's nothing like serious. It's always maybe an ankle injury or back spasms or something like this stupid like that. But that's just my take on it.
Yeah, I want to see him stay healthy, man, because I'm a huge Michigan fan as well. And like I said earlier, we're both from Kalamazoo. I probably mentioned that once on this podcast every week. So I'm definitely rooting for the guy, that grew up down the road from me. Why wouldn't I?
All right. We can wrap this podcast up. Lance, why don't you tell the people? Actually, wait a minute, King. Do you have anything to plug that you're working on? How rude of me. You're a guest on this show. My bad. You have anything? Maybe a video you're working on? Any projects you're working on right now with anybody?
I am getting myself prepared to unlock King Shorts and TikTok, Instagram Reels. I already got my microphones and everything ready, man. I'm going to start doing some street questions and everything. I'm going to be down there at LCA a lot this season. Got season tickets. So, yeah, just going to be a different type of vibe to my channel.
Can't wait to watch it, man. Can't wait to see it. But Lance, sorry for interrupting you. Why don't you tell the people where they can find the podcast, where they can support it, and if you guys haven't already, you can subscribe to King's YouTube channel. It's in the description down below.
For sure. Thank you guys for listening to the Pistons Talk Podcast. Do us a favor, go to Google, Apple, Spotify, or wherever you listen to podcasts and subscribe. After you subscribe, leave a review, drop a rating, but more importantly, tell a Pistons fan.
Peace, guys.